The Tale of MerryMaid Scarlette Rose, written and illustrated by Raquel M Carter. Once upon a time, there were 4 little Marys. There were 3 merry men and 1 little merry maid, and the names were Little John, Bertram, Warren, and Scarlette Rose. They lived with their mother in a sandbank cove underneath the depths of a very big cypress root tree. "Now, my dears," said old Miss Mary one morning, "you may go into the big wide lakes or down past the outlands, but don't go near the marsh of Mr. Sir Barberic's cottage. Your father had an accident there. Now swim along and be mindful of danger lurking, and you mustn't be mischievous. I am going about." Then old Miss Mary took a fisher's net and swam through the marsh currents, where she harvested a batch of seaweed, some water hyacinths, and 5 mermaid fans. Little John, Bertram, and Warren, who were considered the good little Marys, swam to the favourite spot to gather fairy moss. However, Scarlette Rose, who was always known for following her heart, swam straight away to Mr. Sir Barberic's cottage and slithered through the marsh. First, she nibbled a few lotus, a few cattails, and then some thyli. And then, feeling rather sick, she went to look for a small bank at the water's edge to lie down. But round the thick marsh, whom should she meet but Mr. Barberic. Mr. Sir Barberic was crouched down in his fishing trousers, planting pink lotus, but he carefully and as slowly as he could grabbed his tri-barbed shear, jabbing at Scarlette Rose. Scarlette Rose was most dreadfully frightened. She rushed all over the garden, for she had forgotten the way back. She lost her crown among the cattails. After losing her crown, she swam as fast as her little fin could swish, so that I think she surely would have gotten away altogether had she not unfortunately swam right over a trawl net and got caught by the little pearl buttons on her blouse. It was a pink blouse with oyster pearl buttons, quite new. Scarlette Rose gave herself up for lost as she shed big MerryMaid tears, but her cries were overheard by some friendly ravens, who flew to her in great delight and beseeched of her to endeavour. Mr. Sir Barberic came up with a large fisher's net, which he intended to drop upon the top of Scarlette Rose. But Scarlette Rose wiggled out just in time, leaving her blouse behind her, and rushed into the marsh pit and sank down into the roots of a hollowed-out cypress trunk. It would have been a lovely thing to hide in if it had not been so tight of a squeeze. Mr. Sir Barberic was quite sure that Scarlette Rose was somewhere in the marsh garden, perhaps hidden beneath the water lilies. He began to carefully poke, looking for movement. Presently, Scarlette Rose let out a sigh of breath and air bubbles rose to the top, and Sir Mr. Barberic was after her in no time, and tried to grab Scarlette Rose's fin, who jumped out from beneath the water lilies, disturbing the jasmine primrose. Mr. Sir Barberic was tired of chasing after Scarlette Rose and went back to his water gardening. Scarlette Rose allowed herself to rest. She was out of breath and quivering with panic, and she knew not of which way to go. Also, she was cramped from being squeezed so tightly in the cypress trunk. After a time, she began to meander about, going flippity-floppity and looking all round. She found a crooked marsh bank with a fat little rabbit standing upon his hind legs. As the old rabbit stood there with a hooked cane, Scarlet Rose asked him the way to the open water, but he had a mouthful of red rose petals and could not answer. He only shook his head at her. Scarlet Rose began to weep. Then she tried to find her way out of the lily-padded maze, but became more and more perplexed. She swam back towards the water garden, but suddenly, quite close to her, she heard the noise of a set of clippers. Snap, 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 click, click, click. Scarlet Rose slinked down underneath the water pads. But presently, as nothing happened, she came out and straightened her tail so that she could peep over. The first thing she saw was Mr. Sir Barbaric clipping Primrose. His back was turned towards Scarlet Rose, and beyond him was the open water. Scarlet Rose slowly and quietly lowered herself beneath and started swimming as fast as she could go in such shallow water, along a bunch of cattails. Mr. Sir Barbaric caught sight of her, but Scarlet Rose did not care. She was safe at last in the open water. Mr. Sir Barbaric hung up the little blouse and nailed the crown to the top of a pole to frighten the Marys, and that deterred them from getting too close ever again. Scarlet Rose never stopped swimming or looking back till she got home to the big cypress root tree. She was so tuckered out that she curled up upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the cypress trunk hole and shut her eyes. Her mother was busy prepping supper. She wondered what she had done with her blouse and crown. It was the second little blouse and crown that Scarlet Rose had lost in a fortnight. I am sorry to say that Scarlet Rose was not very well during the evening. Her mother put her to bed and made her some ginger tea and gave a dose of it to Scarlet Rose, 2 tablespoonfuls to be taken at bedtime. But Bertram, Warren, and Little John had sweet seaweed currant buns, chamomile tea, and honey for supper. The end.